Hello, everyone, and welcome to Damn You Hollywood, where the quality of these films is matched only by my enthusiasm for this show. Both are very, very low.
Oh, everyone got that. Why did you ruin it by explaining it?
Because it's only funny if you explain it.
We've had this discussion. It's not funnier if you explain it. It actually lessens the humor the more you explain things. Like the more you talk about a thing, the less energy it has to be funny.
This is like the exact opposite of all my experience with comedy ever.
Really? I mean,
Yes, things are only funny if they are explained.
huh. I feel like that's not true, or you would be a bigger fan of Seth MacFarlane. And now for Robert Winfrey's 10-minute rant on why Seth MacFarlane's not funny.
I'm not going on a 10-minute rant about Seth MacFarlane. He doesn't merit that much attention from me.
Do I merit any attention from you?
Yes. That
Yay!
said, when I have laughed at Family Guy, it's been when they have really explained stuff, because I think it's funny.
You know what? The over-explained thing I thought was really funny when Stan's dad on South Park yells out, "They're raping me and it hurts." Like, do you really?
I don't think I've seen that episode, but
they're raping me. I think it's the Christmas one with the with the Christmas critters that are all possessed by Satan, and they're all raping the character. And he's like, "They're raping me, and it hurts." Like, did we really need the "it hurts" part? But that's what made it funny.
it's again like that joke is only funny with that addition. See, it's funnier when it's explained further.
All right, I'm with you now. What do you say we start the show? What do you think?
I mean, we could, but who cares what we think about a crappy movie? Oh, wait, that's the entire premise of the show, isn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
All right. Self-effacing humor aside, Mark and I are back after a few weeks on hiatus.
And we're
how you
better
doing,
than
Mark?
ever. As I said to you before we started the show, I literally napped sleep sitting straight up waiting for the show to start. So, I guess I'm okay.
That's good to know. Anyway, I'm Robert. He's Mark.
I saw
Hopefully
White Boy
you get-
Rick. I saw White Boy Rick. I saw Predator Friday night, and then I saw White Boy Rick on Sunday.
Okay. I mean, you saw two terrible movies at different ends of the spectrum, but okay.
See, I wasn't sure if you had any interest in White Boy Rick or not. I didn't bother to ask you because I figured the answer was going to be no, because you don't like anything. But
True.
But I did see it, and not as good as I thought it would be. I like the true crime autobiographical movies, but this one was just kind of meh.
I mean, I'd have been more interested if it was Matthew McConaughey playing a teenager, just because I think he could pull it off.
Matthew McConaughey yelling at a pantsless girl saying, "Get in the house, we're going to get custard," was pretty funny. Movie kind of goes downhill after that.
I watched the trailer for White Boy Rick and went, okay, so as soon as we get away from McConaughey and into this obnoxious teenager being an obnoxious teenager with other obnoxious teenagers doing drug-related things, it's just going to go off a cliff.
Though I do enjoy that one line from the trailer, and it's funny in context. It's like, this my boy Rick, he white.
As though the obvious pigmentation of his skin.
Sometimes things need to be over-explained. Huh? See how we come full circle?
Yeah, we're good like that.
Anyway, we're not here to discuss White Boy Rick, my attention deficit disorder aside. Why don't you tell them what we're here to talk about?
Yeah, we're here to talk about The Predator.
Woo!
Don't woo, Mark. This is not a woo movie.
Olivia Munn's buns, hun. Yeah! I like to get up in Olivia Munn's buns and go brrr, like Richard Nixon. It's the second time I've made that joke.
Yes.
Which I utterly stole from Andrew Dice Clay.
Also true.
Have you ever heard the original Andrew Dice Clay joke about him sticking his face in people's asses and being Richard Nixon?
Probably at some point.
Were you a fan of Andrew Dice Clay?
Not really.
Did you watch his Showtime show that lasted 2 seasons?
No.
It was amusing. Not nearly as amusing as the idea of sticking your face in Olivia Munn's buns and wiggling it just a little bit.
Your bizarre obsessions aside.
I promised Jesse Starcher I would obsessively talk about Olivia Munn's buns. So
Why would you do that?
Because he asked me to. I feel like I've met that quota. We can move the show on.
Wait. You decided to further debase yourself in this particular forum.
Oh, I would
alienate a significant portion of the audience by being you. To be fair, I alienate the other half.
Well, hang on. Stop for a second.
Simply because Jesse asked you to.
Nobody listening to this show is going to be alienated by anything I just said. Or they aren't listening to this show to begin with.
Feel free to tweet Mark if you disagree with his perspective.
Yeah, please let me know if you were all into this show, if you were like, I love Damn You Hollywood, but the idea of you sticking your face in Olivia Munn's buns was a bridge too far.
Yeah.
You'll be one of the people downvote. You'll be one of the people downvoting me on YouTube, I bet.
Those are just bots at this point. We have like an equal number of downvotes and upvotes on YouTube because there's an equal number of bots out there doing both things. Like no one actually listens.
Do you think we put a humidifier and a humidifier and a dehumidifier in the same room and let them fight it out?
I mean, nothing would change. That's kind of the joke, I assume.
Yeah.
It's almost as much fun as watching the air conditioner fight the heater, though that can create mini tornadoes.
I wonder if anyone listening to this podcast right now is wondering how long is this going to go on before they actually talk about the movie? Could they go an entire show and not talk about the movie?
We could. We absolutely could. In fact, I think we did at one point, but you didn't record it.
We could easily fill an entire hour's worth of mindless banter between the two of us and arguing and not actually review a movie.
Yeah, but since we've now filled our quota for pointless banter in the beginning of the show...
You're welcome, Dad.
On to The Predator. The Shane Black written... He directed this too? Yes, he did. That actually explains a lot about my problems with this movie all of a sudden, because I'll get to that. They're attempting to continue the Predator franchise, which still, after having its first entry in, 1987? The original Predator? 90?
Something like that.
After its original movie, has still yet to have a decent sequel. There's just none. It's the saddest thing in the world that this franchise can't get another decent movie up and running. Because Predator 2 was hit and miss, to say it charitably. Predators was like 20 years later than that and also full of problems, including random Lawrence Fishburne appearances. And now we've got this. And that's not even counting the Alien vs. Predator 2 movies, which are... so bad. Just so bad. Anyway, Mark insisted on this movie being on the calendar because big budget release. Never mind how much it's going to suck. We must review it. I must suffer. This is the mandate of Mark. That's one of those things like on Mark's daily schedule. Is how can I exacerbate Winfrey's suffering today?
Did you see what I put on Facebook when I was checking in? It was for White Boy Rick, but I had said, one for the network, The Predator, one for me, White Boy Rick, and none for Robert Winfrey.
Yeah, I saw. I've just figured it was an accurate stream of consciousness post from you. All right. So, you and I we talked a little bit about this. Neither of us think this is a good movie. Let's just get that out of the way before I do my plot synopsis. But I'll be straight. As soon as I saw a trailer for this movie, I went, "Oh, this is gonna suck." Like, there's no way this turns out decently.
I just wasn't excited for it because here's the thing: the original Predator was this really fun mashup of a slasher horror movie and a science fiction and Commando. It was really, really unique in that sense. And then they never really captured the magic of the first one in any subsequent one, because it's either a PG-13 movie where there's not enough gore and not enough slashing, or they don't come up with a new and original way to use the Predator. So, all they've ever done is change the setting in which the Predator exists. In one instance, he's in the middle, he's in the big city, Predator in the big city, amidst a gang war. And then they're like, well, let's.
Well, we have very stereotypical versions of Colombians and Jamaicans engage in a street war over drugs.
And then in the next movie, it's predators, killing aliens with humans in the middle in a hidden temple that affects nothing and nobody anywhere. And then in the next one, they're like, what if we put the predator in the suburbs, and there's aliens, which would have.
Now, in fairness to AVP Requiem, every time there's not humans talking on screen, it's pretty good.
Well, that's the thing. Like, had AVP just been an all-out gore fest and had it been like a hard R, there was potential there. There was absolutely potential in predators and aliens tearing up the suburbs. That's fine, but again, they don't commit to anything with these movies. Which then brings us to Predators, which is, what if we go back and do the first one, but they're instead of being on Earth in a jungle, they're on another planet. Okay? And Topher Grace is there.
And Topher Grace is here, and we'll cast Adrian Brody in the lead for some reason, and Predator Civil War. Yes, this is such a great idea. Like, no.
And so that brings us to this one, which I honestly had zero interest in outside of it's a movie that fits into the modus operandi for this podcast. Now, that said, this is such a gonzo, bizarro movie. I actually really enjoyed it. It's just not well made, well acted, or well written. It simply exists as this utterly fantastic failure that amused me for 2 hours because I'm an idiot.
All right. I don't think we're going to get a better synopsis than that. Let's just wrap the show. What do you got to plug, Mark? Okay. In all seriousness, here's your spoiler warning. I'm going to tell you what happens in this movie. And, God, I can't even make this sound not inane. So here we go. We open. This movie's so damn derivative. I sat there watching this going, there's paying homage to what came before, and then there's ripping it off because you can't do anything differently creatively. And that's what we got here. But we open with a brief Predator gunfight in outer space between two ships. One opens a wormhole of some variety and jumps to Earth. His ship crashes. This is the impetus for everything that follows. As this renegade Predator is bringing humanity alien technology to help them fight predators. Like, it's just the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah, spoilers. Spoilers. There's a predator who has decided to rebel against the Predator Empire that's coming to Earth, and it's going to bring humanity a weapon to fight the predators with, which is essentially the Iron Man suit.
I just realized, that Predator, that one that gets, his face punched in halfway through the movie, he's that jackass who puts, Asian carp in the Mississippi River. You're the asshole who has thrown the entire ecosystem out of balance because you're a moron. I mean, somebody stupid put pike in. This is a major problem in one of the lakes where I live because somebody 20 years ago thought it'd be a good idea to introduce pike into the Utah lake. It's not a good idea. They eat things that eat algae, and now the whole lake's a mess. It's
all right.
Dumbass.
Get back to synopsizing the movie.
All right. As the Predator's ship crashes onto Earth, it disrupts a hostage retrieval mission? Because that's never explained. But leaving one of the surviving military members, why the military was supervising a hostage transfer is also never explained. But hey, Boyd Holbrook is there. And that's important because he's the main character, more or less. His unit dies, and he is left, having encountered the Predator, he escapes, he steals a couple of pieces of equipment because he wants evidence in case people think he's crazy, which is actually like the only sane thing his character does the entire movie. So he mails those back home. Shortly after, he's apprehended by the government, who tries to slap because, hey, I saw an alien. And the actual government agency that knows about the aliens doesn't want him getting out and making noise about it, so they prepare to commit him to a psych ward and dismiss his all claims as the ramblings of an insane person. While in transfer, he meets his group of misfit ne'er-do-wells, because it's a Shane Black movie. There must always be a group of misfit ne'er-do-wells. I don't even remember their names.
It doesn't matter.
And there's the religious guy. Was that Key or Peel? I can't keep them straight in my head. It was Key, right?
Hang on.
Key. It's Key.
Yes.
So Key's there. He makes a bunch of bad jokes. Thomas Jane is there. I swear, when they wrote these characters, they didn't actually write them. They assembled the actors and said, okay, you're all crazy. Workshop how that's going to look. And Thomas Jane just went, I got Tourette's, so I can just do whatever I want.
Yeah, it's kind of... You know, it'd be funny if I just blurt shit out. Like, eat your pussy. Like, wouldn't it be funny if I just blurt eat your pussy out at Olivia Munn? Let's see what she does.
And then Key goes, yeah, I'll improv some jokes. And then the other two are just kind of along for the ride. I'll be the crazy Irishman who blows things up because, hey, we don't have to be sensitive about the IRA anymore in 2018.
Nobody cares about being sensitive to white people.
Also true. And you have the religious Mexican.
Because Mexicans are religious. Get it?
By and large. And you have, who was it, Nebraska?
And then there's Black Guy.
Yeah. Who failed to kill himself. Which is hilarious.
You know what? Considering the amount of black people I meet in the jail setting that fail to kill themselves after trying on a number of occasions, highly believable. Most believable thing in the movie.
He had a gun. Like,
Again, I've heard this story before. It's a thing. It happens. Move on.
All right. I will bow to your superior experience with the suicidal black community.
Yes, I'm quite experienced. I have an honorary doctorate in suicidal blacks.
And in fairness, it does turn out he's just bad at shooting people in the head. Like, this is just some congenital thing with him, apparently. Boyd Holbrook has mailed these things to his P.O. box because he wants them, again, available to prove his story. Unfortunately, he's a deadbeat dad, and he's behind on his alimony, and he's behind on paying off his P.O. box. So the post office just dumps all of it at the address, which is his ex-wife, never quite estranged if nothing else, and his autistic son, because we must for some reason replay autistic people have superpowers. Just the dumbest thing. But so the autistic kid who miraculously interfaces with alien technology, this is almost as stupid as Jeff Goldblum just plugging his laptop into the alien computer.
Hey, look. Will Smith saw the spaceships fly, and he understood instinctually how to then fly them.
Yeah, I was more online with that because they had clearly done some retrofitting to that one. It's also, if you watch the director's cut of Independence Day, it makes more sense that how Jeff Goldblum's character had translated that stream of, lines into binary, so he could theoretically interface with it. That actually makes more sense than autistic child interfaces with alien technology.
Yeah, I'm autistic. I understand an alien language and its technology.
Yeah, it's... Oh, God. That bothers
Every
me.
autistic kid I know is a mutant.
Clearly.
They all have special powers. Some can turn people to ice. Some can turn people to fire. Some shoot red laser beams from their eyes, but they have to wear ruby red quartz sunglasses in order to stop from doing that. Others are every kid on this. Honestly, the emotional spectrum, the autistic spectrum, whether it's Asperger's or autism or whatever in between, all actual mutant powers. I don't know if you know that or not.
As someone, in all likelihood, on the spectrum, yes, I knew that. Now I have to kill you for exposing our secret.
What is your what exactly is your X power?
I can't tell you.
Oh,
It's annoying you to death.
Why don't you just whisper it in my ear?
It's annoying you to death. I annoy people until they actually want to kill themselves.
I could definitely see. You know what? I would argue that that's not a power, but as we saw from Deadpool 2, if luck can be a power, so can annoying people to death.
Just just generally bringing down a room. Like, you drop me in the middle of something and I have this aura of just nihilistic malaise that seeps out from me and inspires suicidal tendencies in those around me.
When you walk into a room, you suck the hope out of the room. The hope and the happiness.
Just gone.
Leaving nothing but despair.
I'm a black hole of all that is good in the world.
Right. That's a fun power to have.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could actually do that to someone other than myself, but alright.
Well, stop doing it in front of a mirror.
No. Dude, I don't like mirrors. Genuinely don't like mirrors.
You're a weird fucker. Continue with your plot synopsis.
What, mirror? I'll get into why I don't like mirrors some
I
other
don't
time.
want to hear why you don't like mirrors, weirdo.
I said some other time. Anyway, set against this is the government agency that recovered the unconscious body of the predator, takes him to a secured facility because there's no way this is going to go badly. They abduct Olivia Munn out of the dog park.
Olivia Munn's buns.
I was waiting for that because, and this is also really stupid. She wrote a letter to the president when she was a child saying she wanted to be informed of any like space animals that they found. I mean, who would have been the president at that point in time?
Let us assume she's in her 30s. Is that fair?
Okay, so Clinton, which makes sense that he would keep track of what 9-year-old girls write him.
Yeah, I would imagine that he's had her bugged ever since then.
I mean, the notion of Bill Clinton keeping tabs on things that small children wrote him is not even the creepiest thing I can believe him doing.
Yeah, no, not at all. He would definitely Bill Clinton is definitely a president that would be waiting until she turned 18 so that he could get his face in her buns.
Yeah, he's a terrible person.
Bill Clinton is a rapist.
Yes, he is. In fact, there were multiple allegations from his time as governor of Arkansas that he just paid off to go away.
Yep.
This is all on the record.
And people wanted him to have a third term. People would right now vote him back into office. They would vote a known rapist back into office.
Yep. I mean, they also wanted a third term from Obama, so people are stupid.
Not a rapist, though.
That we know. Really? You're going to make that claim publicly?
Well, I don't think he... Well, if you raped anybody, it would be other men. It wouldn't be a woman.
And as we all have learned, it doesn't count if you do it to men.
Right. Especially white men. If Barack Obama was out there raping white men, nobody cares. Doesn't make the news.
That's very true. I mean, that's facetious, but it's also, like, sadly, is probably 100% accurate.
This podcast took a weird turn. Can we get back to reviewing the movie?
No, the movie sucks. I'd rather speculate about Barack Obama's sexual predations. All right. Anyway, they abduct Olivia Munn, and her first greeting upon arriving at this facility, because she's a biologist, despite not really... Never mind. I'll get into that later. The first thing she is greeted with upon arriving at this facility is Gary Busey's son, Jake. And Gary Busey's son is not nearly as ugly as Gary Busey, but still, man, that's a rough welcome. He actually plays the son of
And so this known scientist, this learned person in biology, they've brought her in, and she says, "I know why I'm here. You want to know if you want to know who fucked an alien."
Yeah, because as they have been doing experiments on this predator that they have captured, they discover that there's some human DNA in there somewhere. The thing winds up waking up as a real predator shows up to murder it. The first predator goes on a killing spree, escapes the facility as our group of Looney Tunes arrive on the outside because they wanted to question Boyd Holbrook over actually having seen the darn thing. People die, there's blood spilled, the predator escapes, Olivia Munn shoots herself with a tranq dart, and winds up with said Looney Tunes who, after a series of what are supposed to be hilarious quips, decide to go to Boyd Holbrook's place and retrieve the information, retrieve the evidence that he has so they can expose the existence of aliens, thus saving themselves from covert assassination by this agency, because once it's out, why would they kill us, as though there's no punitive people in this group. So that's where they go. Again, a different predator arrives, this one much bigger and much more imposing, and able to manifest exoskeletal structures out of his body at will, randomly. As they retrieve I think it's a face mask and a gauntlet that the kid had, as the kid is trick-or-treating with them, because why not, right? I was going to say, I don't know where this is set, what part of the country, but that's a mild October, wherever they are. That's a real mild October that they've got going on there.
Let's say it's Florida.
It can't be Florida. There's no palm trees.
There's not always palm trees in Florida. I can go outside my house right now and show you that there's no palm trees. Yeah,
because you live in an urban wasteland.
I don't live in an urban... Just listen to me, goddamn you. There's no palm trees where I live, but I live in a suburb of Tampa.
Yeah, an urban wasteland, that's what I said.
Ugh, you're an urban wasteland.
No, I'm not. I'm not that interesting. The geography of this region is all over the place, because don't they have that last fight in part of a swamp?
Again, Florida.
Florida or Georgia, I assume, at this point.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that is Georgia. They actually do say it's Georgia, if memory serves. Anyway. So they arrive, the big predator arrives and murders the little predator, and then has to retrieve all the evidence. Can I just say, this was one of my big gripes with the writing of this movie. For some reason, the big predator, after murdering the other one, the renegade, then has to report in to some nebulous entity and actually deliver plot points that we, the audience, are not privy to, despite never doing that before or doing it after that point. No other reporting is done. And to render that whole thing redundant, 3 minutes later, the head of that whatever random shadow government agency it is randomly guesses at the correct solution on his first try. I mean, it's not good writing. Anyway, so again, he murders that predator, goes to recover those things, blow up the ship, because the predators don't want the humans to have this technology because it would spoil their hunting. I mean, again, this is also not actually explained all that well. I mean, it's entirely possible that this guy is just no, don't screw with what is the prime directive? We can hunt them, but we don't interfere with their evolution. You're interfering with their evolution, and we have to fix this. There's predator dogs for some reason.
Well, there were predator dogs in the last one, too.
Sure, but they didn't really make sense there either. Hey, what would be cool? Dogs with mandibles and dreadlocks.
Well, okay. Go in the previous one. It made sense because you have Adrian Brody saying they're using dogs to flush us out as if we like we would if we were hunting quail or something or foxes. So at least in the sense that this is a movie about humans being the game and a game preserve, it made some degree of sense. Having the dogs on Earth made no sense.
Fair.
I mean, unless these are not hunting dogs, these are police dogs. And the predator that was, like, really, this is a noir piece, and that the big hulking predator was actually like, a detective predator, who was on a case.
All right. Anyway, things go, badly, but because it's a Shane Black movie, there must be a kidnapping sequence. So the government agent kidnaps Boyd Holbrook's son to utilize his superpower as a means of integrating with the alien ship so they can get in and find the technology, because this man who can't interface properly with this machine and doesn't actually shoot weapons appropriately has somehow managed to use Holmesian deduction skills to figure out the interstellar politics that went into the sequence of events that brought them to this point, because the plot says so. As they are at the ship, there's a firefight that breaks out between Holbrook and his Looney Tunes and the government, and then the Predator shows up and murders all of them, with the exception of Boyd Holbrook and Olivia Munn, who, between the two of them, managed to save the day at the last minute with an explosive device, kill the big Predator, retrieve the alien technology, which is the Iron Man suit Mark 57. And Boyd Holbrook gets to look at that and go, that's my new suit. Boy, I sure hope they have it in my size.
I'll take that in a 42 long, is what he says.
I hope they have it in a 42 long.
So is this like a thing in Hollywood now? Is this like the new trend that in our action movies somebody has to jump on a thing that's taking off?
It would seem that way.
Because Mission Impossible, Predator, the next Avengers movie I'm sure will have it. This apparently is the new blue laser in the sky.
Yeah, it's just not necessary.
Do people understand the force it takes to get an aircraft moving? And that
no, they don't.
And that no human, that once an aircraft has taken flight and has gotten to the speed it needs to be. I mean, like, I'm not science guy. This is your department. But even I'm watching this and I'm like,
I'll take a break from being Mr. Wizard, and you can.
If you're on a spaceship that's got enough velocity that it can actually take flight, you're not staying on it. You're being blown clear off the thing.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It really is.
Boyd Holbrook's hair doesn't even move.
Yeah, they don't even have the decency to have a wind machine going.
Okay. Oh, and that's the other thing. Like Alien, that was the other one where they're I mean, as cool of an image as it was, that was another movie where they're fighting on top of a spaceship that has taken flight.
Yeah. No.
This isn't a hover. These aren't hovercrafts. Like if it was a hovercraft, like I get it. There's no velocity here, but these are all things that take like jet propulsion.
These are things designed to leave atmosphere. Like, no, you're not staying on them. I will say this about the alien ones. At least then they had the decency to tether themselves.
Right.
Which doesn't actually help you stand up or maintain a base for shooting from. But at least you're not going to fall off the ship if you're tethered to it. But
no,
yeah,
you're just going to get your body's just going to get blown to smithereens by the force of the ship taking off.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to get yanked apart, but
right. But you won't fall off. All
right, where do we really want to start with this thing? I mean,
look, here's what I'll say.
It's badly. Can I just say this is like one of the worst edited movies I've seen in a while?
Yeah.
Like, that entire everything after the Predator reclaims the ship and is like, you know what? I feel like going on a hunt while I'm here. So the one called McKenna. Yeah, it's clearly the badass soldier. Wink, wink. No, it's the autistic kid. Because autism is the next step in human evolution, apparently.
Yeah, autism's a superpower. Every autistic kid I know has awesome superpowers, and his life is so much better for it.
Yes. But yeah, that entire scene where they're going through the woods with that, it's so badly shot, Ned. It's so badly put together.
Yeah, this was not a well-made movie in the sense that, like, the best part about it should be the action sequences, but they don't flow at all. Like, it's hard to follow the action. It's one of the things we've talked about with other movies. and it's probably my biggest complaint, other than that, nobody really acts this way. But we've talked about it. The saving grace of some stupid action movies where the plot is nonsensical is that at least the action is shot well and competently. This wasn't. This I felt like they saved money on special effects by jarring the camera left and right.
Yeah, the best parts of this movie are the stuff that the crazy people, like the actors that ad-libbed all their stuff for those scenes.
Right.
Is the best part of this movie.
So, let me tell you at least what I liked. Like I said, I enjoy, a good gonzo, over the top, shoot everything that moves action flick. I liked, it wasn't done well, but at least I liked the attempt to try to flesh out the Predator race. That instead of them just being haunted house monsters, as they've been in every other movie, they were saying, hey, look, the Predators are a race of beings. They're trying to do things. They don't all get along. The problem is, again, they don't commit to anything. Like a movie about the Predators, and their society fracturing, and one group of predators saying, we are destined, we need breathing room. I would love to see predator Nazis, and then a group, and then the lesser predators going, no, we have no right to take over other races. Sure we do. We are big and strong, and fleshing that out somewhat. And having that affect Earth would have been an interesting concept, and I feel like something they were trying to do. But it was like it's as if it's as if a producer or an executive of the studio got the original script, looked at that, and went, "This is way too much for an average movie-going audience these days. Take out all of this stuff." Allude to it here and there, and then have Olivia Munn say, "Did somebody fuck an alien?" All right, so we're not going to be brave and commit to an interesting idea. We're going to hint at the idea and then reduce the movie to caricatures and bad action.
Yep.
Okay, and at that point, I laughed at certain jokes. I enjoyed the shoot 'em up, and when it was over, I went home. And attempted to rewatch Predators, seeing as I have to review it on Thursday.
I'm sorry you're having to watch both of those.
Yeah, at some point I gotta do a palate cleansing and watch the original Predator.
Yeah.
Which again, at least committed to an idea. And the idea was, what if we took the slasher genre, but mixed it with Commando, and oh, by the way, the slasher monster's an alien. All right. That's a fun idea. So, dear Hollywood, if you're going to continue to make Predator movies, figure out a far-out idea to do something different and something new with the Predator race, and then commit to it. Really, really commit. Because half-assing it and just...
Okay, wait. This actually makes a lot of sense.
What?
Apparently, the film's third act was entirely reshot after test screenings of the movie.
Well, if the third act was something more along the lines of what I'm suggesting and people rejected it, then we have nobody to blame but ourselves for shitty movies, and we've already talked about that several times in other podcasts.
God, I hope we get to see it at one point, because I mean, honestly, I just like seeing the differences for the sake of comparative analytics more than anything. It's one of the reasons I want to see, Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. I don't necessarily think it'll be better, but I'm curious to see it. Can I also petition relative to this show, Mark? I have a random petition for you. Because they've decided to cut down Venom to be a PG-13 movie, but they're going to preserve the R-rated release for, I think, the Blu-ray or whatnot.
Okay.
Can we postpone reviewing that movie until we get the R-rated version?
No.
Come on, you know the theatrical cut's going to be garbage.
Here's what I'm willing to do though. We're going to review the theatrical cut. And
I'm not doing it twice. And
when the Blu-ray comes out, if you want to do a commentary over the R-rated version, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's possible. Unlikely. That movie's gonna suck. Anyway, about this one. What else did I want to say? God, again, it's just badly edited. It's
the acting. For some reason, the acting is fine. I think everyone does what they can with it, but it's unfortunately it's just written badly. People don't act that way. For some
reason, Olivia Munn becomes a tactical person. Like, she gains the ability to really knows her way around somewhat complicated weaponry with no discernible reason for this having happened. Right, unless I missed the point where she's got a doctorate in some form of evolutionary biology with a minor in small arms fire.
So, I've got an article up that talks about what the original ending was supposed to be.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to the part of the article where it says what it was. Yeah, I'll just read this from the beginning.
That would be nice.
God damn it, computer is so slow. All right. It appears crowds divided on the Rock'em Sock'em Splatterfest that finally answers the question, what would a Shane Black Predator movie be like? Turns out a Shane Black Predator movie is pretty much what you'd expect. Funny, problematic, violent, especially in its third act, pretty damn messy. The messiness of the third act was probably my biggest quibble with the film. There's too much choppy editing, too much wonky CGI.
Are we sure this isn't what we actually got?
Too much
that sounds like what we actually got.
Too much wheel spinning. No, they're talking about that. Too much wheel spinning, and the film final scene feels tacked on and underwhelming. This double few Black and Fred Dekker better screenplay, which features an entirely different and way more exciting final beat. In the film, the last scene finds Quinn McKenna learning that a rogue predator has gifted humanity with a predator killer, which turns out to be a suit of Iron Man-esque super armor. Obviously, the intention here was to set up a sequel, one wherein McKenna would use this eyesore of an exoskeleton to protect the world against a new wave of predator attacks. Oh, well, alright. In Dekker and Black's original screenplay, however, the scene isn't there. Instead, McKenna, his son Rory, and Casey Brackett, which is Olivia Munn, have all just survived the final attack of the super predator when a helicopter lands. Out climbs Dutch Schaefer, Arnold Schwarzenegger, his face haunted, etched by pain. Dutch tells the trio to come with him, and when Rory asks, me too, the franchise's second most iconic badass smile and says, especially you. Cut to black.
I mean, that's pretty stupid, too, to be fair, but it's not as stupid.
Yeah, I don't really know where we're going with this.
Nowhere, because when we get to, and we'll talk about that when we get to the money, but I mentioned that this is, one of my big gripes with the writing on this movie is that it's derivative. And there's a difference between, again, paying homage to the movies that inspired this and came before it, and then there's derivative. Then there's, hey, let's repurpose some of these iconic lines. We're going to have Nebraska Williams say, get to the choppers, clearly in reference to this bunch of motorcycles. And this will be funny.
I giggled.
It's not funny.
I giggled anyway.
You have laughed at much dumber things than that.
I have.
And here's a bunch of the score from the original Predator, because we don't want to pay the guy to make a whole one for this movie. So here's a bunch from, and in fairness, the score to the original Predator is great. But it just didn't, it just never felt like it got away from just riding on the coattails of the original. And that's not a good thing. That's really not a good thing in this instance, because it just reminded me, hey, I could be watching the original.
Yeah. That's the thing, I don't want to see a rehash of the original. And I don't see, I actually wanted to ask you this because you're into horror and you're into gore and all that. But how do you deal with the horror franchises, where the setup is that's some monster running around a space killing people? How do you differentiate that from movie to movie, keeping it fresh? I mean, if you think about the Screams, the screams changed settings. It changed who the monster was in relation to the victim. And even Scream got a little derivative towards the end.
Scream's an odd choice because it is an inherent, like, it's intended as a deconstruction in some respects, so its derivative nature becomes... There's a serious question as to how much of that is intentional satire and how much of that is unintentional bad writing.
So let's look at, like, say, Friday the 13th, right? Where we have just, what is it, 10, at least 10 movies where,
there's a lot.
There's the base. I think in the first, spoilers, the first one, it's the mother, right? And then from subsequently on that, it's the child reborn as this stalking monster. And the setups are always the same. You have a group of potential victims and the monster and a setting. And I feel like the only thing that ever changed with those movies was the setting.
There's two things about those movies that change. One of them is the setting. The other is, and since you brought this up, one of the most important things about especially a slasher franchise and the Predator franchise is at its core, like the Terminator franchise in some respects, a slasher franchise. Terminator differentiated itself going forward, but the original is a slasher movie in many respects. It's actually the quality of the cast of victims that is, in many respects, most important. There has to be something that you can be interested in, or that you can kind of latch on to. And there has to be at least someone that you're rooting for. And then, you can use a setting to add character to it. And then you need, good kills. Sadly, in this movie, we're lacking a lot of that.
Well, that's the thing. This is essentially an attempt to rehash the original with less interesting characters. Like, these are... Look, you're not going to get much better than I Ain't Got Time to Bleed Jesse Ventura.
Very true.
that was... I was watching... I think it was the Honest trailer for the original Predator, and they made a point of saying, like these are all, like, badass dudes. These are dudes, like, you want, like, if when you're a kid, you'd want to play out in the yard.
Oh, yeah. You'd argue over who's... that cast of characters, like, comes out of a 9-year-old boy's imagination.
When Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, shake, high five.
That hand clasp into the arm wrestling in midair.
Right. I said, like, if that doesn't impregnate every woman in the theater, I mean, Jesus. It's so, it's got so much testosterone in that. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I think this is the problem with the Predator, is they haven't figured, because the Predator is a specific kind of monster. It hunts other humans, but it only hunts humans worthy of being hunted. So, like, they made a point of not killing Olivia Munn because she was naked and harmless and whatever else. And and anytime you've ever seen the Predators, I think except for maybe Requiem, which I vaguely remember, the Predators aren't really killing anybody that's inconsequential. They're only killing other people who could be potentially dangerous. And it's like, okay, you either can't do that anymore, and then you have to change the modus operandi of the Predator, or you have to, that was the thing with Predators. It at least tried to do something interesting with that concept. Like, okay, let's go back to, let's find the most dangerous individuals from these different walks of life, and then much of that movie plays on their interactions. Walton Goggins interacting with the character from Sierra Leone and all of that, and then you had the Mexican and the Yakuza and all that. And this one is like,
if they'd done any research, they'd know that Danny Trejo is not the most dangerous person from that walk of life. He always dies.
My point is, I feel like the only thought they put into this was, okay, well, what happened? Like, well, let's take the same concept, but let's make all of them crazy this time. So it's like, so the thing that's going to differentiate this movie from the rest of them is that these guys are lunatics on top of everything else. Like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough to warrant an entire movie.
No, it's again. Sadly, like we don't even get a lot of really interesting kills.
No.
Which I love a good gore fest. I wanted more. I really did want more, and just never quite get it. Like,
Right, that's the thing. Like, well, that's what I was saying before. Like, if you're not going to write like an interesting script, but at least make it visually appealing, you know. And in this particular case, you gotta make some fun kills. You know, Rambo coming out of the mud to slice a guy's throat. That's fun. That's a fun visual. Things like that. But I at this point, I feel like we're just repeating ourselves. This one, was a...
It's a mess. It's a waste.
Yeah. I at this point, I'm at a point now where a lot of people are with Jurassic Park, where it's just like there's nothing more you can do with this. Like, to paraphrase the guys from Red Letter Media with regards to Star Wars, this is very limited. There's nothing more you can do with it. Stop making Predator movies.
If you're not going to actually, make a good one, just stop. You're not doing yourself or anyone else any favors.
The next movie, if they're going to do another one, the next movie has to be a hard R. It has to be gory as fuck. And it has to feature...
It doesn't have to be... Let me be clear about this. It doesn't have to be over-the-top gory, necessarily, if you can use limited gore effectively. I mean, again, consider the original. There's not that much gore. What there is used very effectively. And it permeates the overall feel of the movie without bombarding you with, actual viscera.
That's the thing, like this one was rated R, but I feel like it was rated R because of the language that was being used, not because of anything that was on screen.
I mean, there's a handful of violent deaths. I mean, there's the guy who gets sliced in half. There's that scene where a bunch of blood just drips onto the Predator. There's the ending for Thomas Jane and Key's characters where they're pretty violent. Mm-hmm. They're violently eviscerated and then mercy kill each other. Right.
I don't know. I didn't see anything on the screen that was that I felt made effective use of the R rating.
Well, effective use is a different discussion. There was stuff on there that made it an R, but I'd agree with your point about efficacy.
So again, make good use of the R rating. And do something interesting with the Predators. Explore the Predator race more. I think that's the thing. I think they feel like the audience for this thing isn't going to sit through a lot of Predators talking to Predators, and then subsequently having to look at subtitles. Like, oh, what is this, a foreign film? What is this, Amelie? I'm not watching this shit.
Yes. It's...
I just compared the Predator to a French film.
Yeah, I know. You actually, short-circuited my brain for a minute there.
Little beach ball showed up on your forehead.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I agree with you. If you're going to try and make the Predators' politics part of the story, we have to spend time with them. We can't have humans randomly guessing.
Well,
miraculously being correct about what's going on.
What I would like to see the next movie, if they're going to do another one, start with is give me 10 minutes of Predators, edited together of sequences of them hunting other aliens and then injecting themselves with that DNA. I want to see the Predators go after some other alien races besides the xenomorphs. You know what I mean? Let's see the Predators do different things. Show me a Predator homeworld. Give me 20 minutes, 20 solid minutes of just Predators doing Predator stuff outside of Earth.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look at, the second Alien vs. Predator Requiem, the parts of that movie without humans are pretty good. There's some stuff in there that's pretty solid. Then we spend so much time with these characters that are flat, unlikable, badly written, badly acted. No, we want to see the aliens, we want to see the xenomorphs and the Predators tear each other apart, and a lot of collateral damage. We don't need the drama of, the ex-con reuniting with his brother and the mom soldier home on leave and, they're so, wacky as they get together trying to escape the carnage. Like, no, we don't need this. This is not what we're paying to see.
I would venture that it would be an interesting thing to see a full-on Predator invasion.
I mean, there's no way it would, but it'd also be horribly lopsided to be to be believable. Like, we just get stomped. Maybe,
but then that's the movie, isn't it? It's in the first 20 minutes to a half an hour of the movie, the Predators come and wipe out humanity, and then flash forward. We are in the waning days of a resistance that's been crushed, but has at least survived this long. And they're in their last ditch effort.
Yeah. Can I also say that their stupid logic for why do they keep coming? Why is this predator trying to help us? Well, we're slowly killing ourselves because we have to sneak in a message about climate change.
Yeah, I was really waiting for Damon Wayans to walk on screen and yell message.
Okay. I mean, you had Key as part of the cast right there. He should have just popped up in the background.
Message. All right, you ready to talk about the money?
So stupid. And what little of it there is, yes.
Okay, terrific. Here we go.
There's your segue.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
I pressed pause on the right one this time. Woo-hoo. All right. On a budget of $88 million, so far it's made $56. 26.
This is not good.
26 domestic. I mean, it's far less than what they wanted, but I think by the end of its run, it'll make it'll make about $200 million, which is what it needs to be.
I'm not sure it will.
You don't think so?
I don't know. I'm really struggling to see this being all that successful overseas as well. I mean, that's the big markets, some of the big markets they're going for, and I'm not sure how this will play.
Well, next week you've got Fahrenheit 11/9. You've got The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which is more appealing to kids. And then you have Life Itself. I don't think anyone's going to go see that. The week after that is Hellfest, Little Women, and Night School, and Smallfoot.
I mean, the question is not, is there any competition for this? The question is, even without competition, is anyone going to go, yeah, let's go see that again?
You think anyone that was going to go see this has now seen it, and that's the end of that?
I mean, what would be? I mean, you've seen it. I've seen. Are you going to see this a second time?
No, I don't even think I'd see this when it came out on video.
I mean, I'm not going to see it again.
Well, maybe. I bet it makes it to $200 million, but then dies right there. So,
I don't know. Again, I'm thinking more 130, 150 range. Unless it's a big hit in China.
It was the number one. It was the number one movie of the weekend. It knocked The Nun from first place to second place. A Simple Favor and White Boy Rick debuted at both 3 and 4. Crazy Rich Asians, which my wife saw twice, fell from 3 to 5. Peppermint from 2 to 6. The Meg 4 to 7. Searching 5 to 8. Mission Impossible 6 to 9, and Unbroken Path to Redemption debuted at number 10. So that was how the weekend went. As far as where it's been a while since we've had one of these shows, so there's actually been some.
And yet, nothing has changed.
No, there's been some significant changes in the top 10 for worldwide. Mission Impossible rose all the way to number 5 with $761 million, which means there's going to be more of these. Get ready for more Mission Impossible.
There were already going to be more of these. That was never in doubt.
It's Paramount's only viable franchise at this point, because sure shit ain't Transformers anymore.
I'm just seriously hoping for the next one they kill Tom Cruise. We can't keep doing this with him.
Deadpool fell from 5 to 6 with $734 million. Ant-Man and the Wasp rose up to 7 with $617 million, so now that's profitable. Good for Marvel. Ready Player One fell from...
I mean, I was really worried about Disney until Ant-Man and the Wasp kind of really has started climbing the...
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason we didn't talk about the top 4 because they haven't changed.
I was like, there's no point. Ready Player One fell from its 5th place spot to 8 with $582 million, and the last two are the same two Chinese Chinaman movies that have been there all year: Operation Red Sea and Detective Chinatown 2. The Meg has risen to number 11, and Sony, which just recently, I don't know if you saw this, but they fucked up and lost the rights to both He-Man and Barbie. Now, He-Man.
You lost the He-Man rights?
Yeah, so the David Goyer He-Man movie has been scuttled.
Who cares about Barbie as a film property? But come on, man.
Yeah, so Sony lost He-Man and Barbie, and at which point Mattel decided to open up its own film studio. So we are going to be getting a Barbie movie and a He-Man movie, but it'll be under the newly branded Mattel studio, which will then get bought by Disney.
Yeah, 3 years from now, it's either going to go bankrupt or be absorbed into Disney.
It'll be absorbed into Disney. I can almost guarantee. If Disney can sell you He-Man toys in the park, they will.
Oh yeah, if they get a He-Man land going on, they would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. He-Man's a viable IP. They dust it off, rebrand it, get it out there for the boys. Like I said, I've been saying this all year, and I'll keep saying it. Disney needs boy stuff. They've got the girl market cornered. They need boy stuff. They do okay with Marvel. Star Wars is not doing so great. They're not moving toys like they should. They need another boy brand. That being said, the Meg.
That's why they have Marvel.
But again, Marvel does okay, but they need another one. They can't just.
Considering that the whole next wave of Marvel movies is going to be designed to appeal to girls instead of boys.
Right. See, now there's your opening right there to bring in another boy IP. All right. So the Meg has risen to number 11 with $506 million. Sony's only movie that's anywhere, that's made any decent amount of money this year was Hotel Transylvania 3. Speaking of which, that's what brought this whole thing up. Is Sony as
they're still banking on a PG-13 version of Venom with cut down violence and a bunch of really bad jokes after every scene.
I'm honestly waiting for Sony to get to, at this point, for the Sony company to just sell their film studio to Marvel, and that way all the IP reverts back to Marvel proper. At this point,
Disney's just looking at them, licking their chops. Like,
yeah,
come on,
come on. Like, when this Fox deal is like totally finalized and everything is integrated, Sony's going to be the next to go. It's at this point they're just subsisting on like whatever scraps they've got left. They are. I mean, when even Paramount is a more viable studio. Paramount has a top 5 picture, for Christ's sake. Granted, it's the only one. It's the next best picture they've got is A Quiet Place at number 19, but still. Anyway, so Hotel Transylvania 3 with $503 million. Rampage, number 13. Solo, A Star Wars Story. Poor Disney, poor Lucasfilm. At number 14. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. At 15, 50 Shades Freed, 16, Monster Hunt 2, 17, Peter Rabbit, 18, Sony's other big hit this year, Hotel Transylvania and Peter Rabbit. A Quiet Place at number 19, and finally, coming in at number 20 is Skyscraper.
Yeah, it's not been a good year.
Yeah, Christopher Robin's kind of bombed. On I don't remember what the budget was, but it's only made $154 million, and it's like way down on the list.
Yeah, it might eke towards profitability, but I mean, it was never. I have to imagine it wasn't intended to actually start a franchise.
Mm-hmm. No, they're just making use of their IP, and their game plan was to reuse all of their classic IP to do live action movies. That's okay. Mary Poppins.
In fairness, they're being more successful than not with that idea.
I was going to say, like, Beauty and the Beast certainly makes up for your Christopher Robins and your Pete's Dragons.
Well, no, it doesn't make up for Pete's Dragon. That was, But I mean, you have Mary Poppins Returns, which thankfully I don't have to see.
Yeah, but that'll make money. Mulan will make money. Mulan
will.
will.
I mean, Aladdin's coming soon. Aladdin will make money.
Dumbo will make money.
Dumbo might not. Dumbo's a bit iffy.
I mean, I think Christopher Robin might have done better, except that it was so dang maudlin. Like, I don't know. Like we talked about this during the review. Like, I'm not entirely sure who this is meant for.
It's not a kid's movie,
right? Like, and that's the thing is, like, Disney is the kids' fucking IP. Like, if you're not making movies for kids, who are you making these for?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed Christopher Robin, but
yeah, but again,
it's pretty easy to see why it's struggling.
Right. It's a weird movie that appeals to a very small sliver of the movie going population. I mean, like, we're movie guys, and I told you, even if I didn't have kids and I didn't have a podcast where I reviewed movies, I wouldn't have gone to see it.
I would have, but that's just me.
Winnie the Pooh never did anything for me. I would love to do more stuff here, but my fucking mouse has died. God damn it! Reconnect. I have a wire
battery.
I just did, and I've got a solid green light, which means it should be reconnecting.
Unplug the dongle. Plug the dongle back in.
There's no dongle.
It's wireless. There's a dongle.
All right, I'm connected. Cloud connected. All right. So anyway, going back to the release schedule, next week is nothing but bullshit. I mean, like, you know, The House with the Clock on the Walls is probably be the number one movie of the weekend. That's put up on Universal. The week after that is literally like a bunch of hot garbage. But I'll tell you what, Night School will probably end up being the number one movie of that weekend too, which is also Universal because people like Kevin Hart. I know you don't. I don't need a 20-minute rant about how Kevin Hart's terrible.
Wasn't gonna rant. Was just gonna say I don't get it, but I agree. But he is undeniably popular, despite his
movies make money. White people love him. He is successful. And then Venom and A Star Is Born. I tell you what, Venom is actually going to have some trouble, I think, in its release weekend because apparently A Star Is Born is also gaining a lot of traction. Like,
I mean, they're very different movies, but yeah,
sure.
The point being, I think you're correct. I mean, A Star Is Born is getting Oscar buzz. It looks to be an incredibly well-made movie. It's a musical dramatic romance. There's a big section of the population that appeals to
Lady Gaga. People like Lady Gaga.
And I appreciate counter programming. I do, but if you're Sony and you're banking on Venom to be your hit, if it struggles against A Star Is Born, that ain't good.
Yeah. So, with that being said, are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right, folks, here we go. You've heard me and Robert tear this film apart, and now we're going to tear apart other people who tore this film apart.
All right.
Kristen Lopez of Culturist, the creature feature equivalent of white bread.
No, because I mean a white bread creature feature would be just a generic creature feature. This is actually a bad creature feature. Like, the creature is not actually featured. Even in, like, because again, like, the original Predator doesn't have the Predator on screen all that much, but its presence is relatively pervasive. Not so much here. It's actually a lot more like that random. Can I just say, like, the fact that they built up that, you know, government agent in charge of that thing, and then he just kills himself randomly in a badly shot sequence that doesn't actually read as him accidentally killing himself, was the dumbest thing they could have done with that character.
Yeah, I had to, like, read the
building
wiki.
him up that way.
I had to read the wiki. But first of all, I hated his character. Like, on the one hand, he was wildly entertaining in a clown sense, but on the other hand, I'm just like, someone in your job position doing what you're doing won't act the way that you do.
You wouldn't actually have your job anymore if you did this.
Yeah. Dan Merle of Screen Junkies, this obnoxious prick. What? Fuck you, Dan Merle, in your stupid movie fights title. Watching this movie is as close to what I imagine going insane is like.
I mean, did you not see A Wrinkle in Time? Because, seriously, Reese Witherspoon transformed into a stalk of romaine lettuce.
You know, I know it's one of those movies you wish I hadn't made you review, but we've gotten a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather have never seen it and just my mind would be cleansed of Giant Oprah. Well, more so than Giant Oprah from the 90s when she was, huge and fat. But, yeah, we've been able... At least, that's been my touchstone for bad movies all year. Is this worse than A Wrinkle in Time? No?
I feel like
Alrighty
if we do a show where we wrap up the entire year, the picture associated with that show is just going to be Reese Witherspoon as a giant slice of romaine lettuce.
It might be. Like this. We referenced this so much.
Joe Lipsit of Bloody Disgusting. It's unclear if Black and Dekker, so that he is actually in there. I didn't do that.
I know. You wouldn't have inserted that.
We're aiming for 80s action movie nostalgia with their underwhelming dialogue and rah-rah machismo, but the vast majority of the Predator unfortunately lands uncomfortably close to dude bro territory.
That's not actually all that wrong. That's relatively fair now that I think about it.
Stephanie Watts, One Room with a View. The story also seems fairly vague and spread across several different narrative threads that never quite add up. No one has a clear motive, including the Predator himself, and this makes for confusing, tensionless viewing. No. The Predator had a very clear motive.
Had a clear motivation. They're trying to arm they're trying to give the deer machine guns. This is a bad idea. I'm going to stop it. That's relatively clear cut.
Yeah, both Predators had very clear motivations.
The other one had a clear goal, but why he was doing it was horribly unclear.
Okay,
I'm going to arm humanity because I feel kinship, much like the clone girl at the end of Fallen Kingdom, releasing the clone dinosaurs and destroying the ecosystem of either destroying the planetary ecosystem or damning them all to horrible death because the current climate is not designed to support their existence. Because clone kinship. That's got to be the same reasoning here, right? Oh, I have human DNA. I feel kinship with these lower life forms and must therefore arm them against coming slaughter while never actually stopping them from wiping themselves out from due to vague climate change threats from government. He didn't make sense. The other one, all the sense in the world.
Would his character have made more sense had he showed up to Earth wearing a Save the Whales t-shirt?
I want him to wear a Nuke the Whales t-shirt.
Tom Santilli of Axis.com. One could not have imagined that this franchise would sink so low as to introduce dreadlock predator dogs. But this film has 2 of them. I feel like that's moderately racist.
No, but this is clearly not someone who saw Predators, where they already had the dreadlocked dogs. This is already a thing.
Well, I don't think those dogs had dreadlocks. Those dogs had, horns on them.
No, they had dreads.
I don't remember the dreads.
You're about to rewatch it, so you'll feel free to correct me if my memory is mistaken. I can swear they have something that's... they have the dreads.
I feel like it's just horns, but it's not worth really talking about. Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com. Completely
self-employed, you loser.
Yeah. Completely unbalanced.
That's a vague enough description to pass for pseudo-enlightenment, I suppose. You feel good about writing that?
Let's see. Bobby Roberts of The Stranger, Seattle, Washington. It doesn't sample an outdated, cliched aesthetic. It is that outdated, cliched aesthetic. This is a $100 million Golan Globus movie in an incoherent cartoon full of slop and jank, drowning out brief sparks of charm thrown by actors who deserve better.
Bear in mind, when he says actors who deserve better, he only means Key because he's woke.
Yeah, he might mean Olivia Bunn's Munns, or Munn's Buns, as it were.
That's the type of reviewer who's in love with the sound of his own voice.
Yeah.
Now, you can't take anything that guy says seriously because he's just talking to hear himself talk.
Andrew Todd of Polygon. Devotees of the franchise will get exactly the kind of creative Predator action they've been craving. But the movie as a whole feels as though it suffered a death of 1,000 cuts, hamstrung by rewrites and edits into a shapeless, unfocused mess.
Yeah, as someone who enjoys the certain entries into this franchise, I'm offended by that. I did not get the Predator action that I wanted. I really didn't. You've just cast horrible dispersions over anyone who remotely enjoys this franchise. Like, oh, I mean, the Predator kills people. You like that, right? No. That's not the same thing as saying, small children are entertained by explosions in the Transformers movies. They are. That's just the way they are. Because they're children. They're supposed to be entertained by things that go boom.
Patrick Sandberg of Dazed and Confused. This may be the director's best attempt at an alien invasion, but no matter how many grenades he throws, nothing ever lands.
I feel like he's mixing his metaphors there. I'm not sure which one he's going for.
Graham Tuckett of Stuff.co.New Zealand. The Predator is a lesson in exactly how to trash the memory of a risible but lovable original.
Yep. That's relatively accurate.
Johnny Olinsky of the New York Post, top critic. Racially offensive quips, flagrant sexism, and Tourette syndrome gags all contribute to this witless, scare-free junk. Oh, you who like to smell your own farts.
I mean, I really would have preferred that, there be no men in this movie, and we had 4 Olivia Munn clones.
I could deal with that.
Of course, he couldn't actually say that lest he be construed as sexist. I mean, in all seriousness, to anyone who thinks that... I mean, like, the scene where those guys are just, like, in the bus giving each other shit... Has this reviewer never actually been in a remotely similar circumstance? Because that's what they sound like.
No, this New York Post writer has never had male friends.
Yeah, that's what got... I mean, it's not the best... I'm not necessarily saying it's the best thing in the world, but guys kind of talk like that.
Yeah, that was probably the most true scene in the entire movie. I might end with this one. I feel like this sums up the whole thing. I'm going to look to see if there's anything better than this, but I feel like this is the best one. Pat Padua of the Washington Post, top critic. Oh. Washington Post, okay? This is the major mainstream news here. This is, the Washington Post is the best of the best. And this guy's a top critic, the best of the best. Can't seem to summon up that old black magic.
Really? I mean, what are you referencing here? How does that sentence in any way actually relate to the material? I mean, I suppose you might be referencing... Okay, he's talking about Shane Black's last name. Okay. I mean, does Black actually have that much great stuff in his repertoire? I mean, he's got a few. I'm not going to pretend he doesn't, but... Isn't it... At this point, isn't he just, coasting on the fact that he made wrote Lethal Weapon? Yeah, this is... Okay. This is not... I mean, again, he's got a few decent... Again, he wrote Lethal Weapon, which is great. The Monster Squad, which is not. Lethal Weapon 2, which is pretty good. Last Boy Scout, yeah. Last Action Hero, pretty big fail. Long Kiss Goodnight I actually enjoy. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is good. Iron Man 3, problematic. Edge was a television pilot. I enjoyed Nice Guys, but this is, I mean, he's not exactly this lauded figure of the writing world.
Oh my god. Christian Harloff, this fucking idiot.
Okay.
Of Schmoes Know. Every Predator movie that worked took itself seriously. This one didn't, and it was a mess over-the-top sci-fi.
I'm not sure that's... I mean, again, let's start with the fact that only the first one really works. And there's a significant difference between taking yourself seriously and the actors not winking and nodding at the camera every 5 minutes. The first one doesn't take itself seriously in the sense that this is a serious movie, but they just make a serious...
Jesse Ventura is walking through the jungle with a Gatling gun.
Yes. And
okay, there's a scene where he's trying to pass out tobacco chew. No one will take it. He then refers to them all as slack-jawed faggots. And then
something else that I have no problem believing actually happened amongst men.
And then insists that if they would only chew said tobacco, it would make them all a sexual tyrannosaurus.
I strap this on.
No one was taking that movie seriously.
Yeah, again, like there's a significant difference between the stuff on screen being treated as relatively serious, only in the sense that, we're being chased by an alien monster. I have to at least... I'm an actor. I have to act like this is really happening. That's the only degree to which it was taken seriously.
Yes, and
but that's an important step.
And it was competently edited together.
Yes. By contrast, here, we have Key doing his best Jimmy Fallon impression where he looks at the camera and winks every 5 minutes. But yeah, that's just a fundamental misread of what it means to take itself seriously versus what it means for a movie to be coherent within its own world.
So here we have
First Predator, coherent. This one, not so much.
Here we have Robert Winfrey's spiritual father, Roger Moore of Movie Nation.
Why would you do this to me?
The smart-ass, quote-unquote, Shane Black, and not the, quote-unquote, smart-ass Shane Black are equally represented here.
I don't think I agree with that, but that's a really weird way to structure that thought. I mean, you could have just said this was more ass than smart from noted smart-ass Shane Black.
Victoria Alexander of FilmsAndReview.com. The Predator begins its new life merging Iron Man comedy and the most essential puzzle piece, an on-the-spectrum kid. What's next? Xenomorph XX121 speaking English with a British accent? Be afraid, be very afraid it's coming. God, I hope so.
No. I really don't want that.
I need a recreation of that critic scene where the dinosaurs are like, we're going to be a crude raft, and I'm going to do odd jobs. But again, maybe I've said too much.
No one should recreate that shit. No. Why would you even put that out there? To the unpaid intern listening to this, do not. That's a terrible idea.
Please
I'm not taking moral high ground here. That's just a bad idea.
Please let the next Alien movie feature them talking in British accents with spectacles. Brian Orndorff of Blu-ray.com, an unwieldy, unexciting feature that doesn't top what's come before, with Black, the unlikely architect of the brand's name's demise.
Yeah, that's kind of fair.
Doesn't anyone have anything to say about Trump?
For once, it seems not. And I'll just take that as a win. It's bad enough we have the guy go, oh, God, they're making jokes. How dare they make jokes in the fashion that men would make in a locker room? Oh, I mean, do you need to retire to the duvet and clutch your pearls, sir?
Mary Ann Johnson, a flick philosopher. Garbage. A bad excuse for a movie, even for the pulpy, disposable popcorn nonsense it wants to be. Incoherent and illogical, cheap and shoddy, wannabe sci-fi action horror that can't pull any of it off.
That's relatively accurate.
Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate, this broad. Profanity-filled, tedious addition to the sci-fi horror franchise. Where's Arnold Schwarzenegger when you really need him?
I mean, if they had cast Arnie, you would have bitched about him being old and a symbol of the patriarchy.
Kurt Loder of Reason Online. The machine gun muzzle flashes might have been important from 1987, year zero in the Predator universe.
Yeah, can we just dispense with those? Because the actual muzzle flashes aren't that bright or that big. That's really a Hollywood thing.
Leonard Maltin of LeonardMaltin.com.
Okay, this has to be the last one.
Okay.
I hate Leonard Maltin.
Genre fans may enjoy this as a weekend time filler or in the future on an airplane. I regret that I devoted nearly 2 hours to a promising picture that wound up being so mediocre.
See, I wish you hadn't read that, because now I have to agree with Leonard Maltin.
Eh.
Because he's not wrong, necessarily.
Matt Brunson of
Although
Creative
they would
Loafing.
never show this on they would never show this on an airplane ride because they'd have to bleep out so much of the dialogue.
The script might be the worst in the entire franchise, but a talented cast and some exciting interludes during the first half slightly compensate for the rampant idiocy.
This is not the worst script out of these movies. It's bad, but have you ever read the script for Predator 2? I mean, if we're just talking the script, since we're limiting the discussion to that, the weary gang war, like Danny Glover as this wearied but still pseudo badass detective dealing with the gangland homicides in South Central Los Angeles is really not all that good. I love Bill Paxton, but his character, it's really not a well-written movie.
All right, this is the last one. James Vernier of Boston Herald. Alien vs. Predator was a lot better.
Hang on. I have to legitimately decide whether or not I agree with that. It was not a lot better. It might be better. That might be a defensible point. Calling it a lot better just means it's been a while since you've rewatched the first Alien vs. Predator movie, because no. There's not a massive distinction in quality here.
All right, that is the end of our Predator review. Tomorrow we take a break from Predators and we go back to the woods with Corpaclani, the new Corpaclani album as reviewed on the Metal Hammer of Doom. And then we finish up Predator Week with an on-trial for Robert Rodriguez's Predators. Next week, Robert and I are back.
It's not good.
Next week, Robert and I are back again to do TV Party Tonight for Iron Fist. We have the last Iron...
Hang on. Let me say this, because I want to document this publicly.
Oh, no.
Just I want to say this just publicly, okay? That's all I want to do here about Iron Fist Season 2. I am 2 episodes in, 2.5. Don't tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I'm going to throw out a handful of guesses about various plot lines that have been revealed thus far. We're doing a depowered arc where at some point Davos is going to strip the power of the Iron Fist from Danny Rand, who has to find meaning in his life absent his magical superpowers. Because we've never seen that plot point done before. The random redhead who keeps running into Danny, we know a little bit about her. She's clearly they're going with some kind of variant of dissociative identity disorder. And the big twist will be that the aw shucks gee golly somewhat unstable one is actually the unstable, dangerous, obsessive personality, and the brusque the very brusque one that you're meant not to like is actually the one keeping her in check and telling her, quit being such a bitch, I don't want to go back to jail. What was the other one that I had that I actually had a thought for? Oh, that random quasi-effeminate teenager that's following Colleen around is going to wind up dead. Boy, I hope he winds up dead. Please kill him. I'm loosely interested in where Ward's Narcotics Anonymous thing goes. The phone rings. But I'm really struggling with this season. I'm really struggling with it, so I'll have to suck it up and just plow through it at some point. But I am not enthralled. Have you watched it yet? I assume you've watched it all.
Nope, not a bit.
All right, so my random guesses there might have spoiled something for you.
It'll be fine. So, like I was saying, next week we got a pair of Iron Fist shows. We have the last Iron Fist story by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction. We looked at issues 1 through 6.
We need to do one of these. We need to do one of these for the BoJack Horseman television series.
Yeah.
Like one for each season, or one for 2 seasons, something like that. Because I watched that instead of Iron Fist. It was so much happier. I love BoJack.
Sure. And then we'll be reviewing the new therapy. That takes us into October. First week of October, we've got Deadpool, Dracula's Gauntlet on Source Material. TV party tonight for Ozark Season 2. And Metal Hammer of Doom celebrates Halloween all month long with one covers album per week. The first one being Power Glove, Continue. And that's... we've got a whole bunch of content right now in the can. We've got the Book of Bad Decisions review by Clutch on the Metal Hammer of Doom. We've got we had a whole bunch of content land on Saturday. We had a Screaming Boy exclusive. We looked at the DC Universe Over the Top app. Then we did a commentary for Superman Doomsday. And then following that, Pat and I did an impromptu alternative commentary for the highway robbery that was Canelo versus Triple G 2.
Highway robbery is a bit extreme, but
No,
hang on. Let me explain.
You got 2 minutes.
The first fight, Triple G got screwed, flat out screwed. Adelaide Bird took a payoff, was driving around in a new car the next day. Like that was criminal. In this instance, I thought Triple G won. Sane people thought Triple G won, but Canelo, being the promotional golden boy that he is, the judges were going to give him any round that they could reasonably find an excuse to give him that round for. And there were enough rounds that they could give him that excuse to win.
I watched that fight with Pat. By the end of it, we both were very secure in our belief that Triple G won.
As soon as that went the distance, I thought Triple G won. I knew they were giving Canelo the decision.
Well, I'm going to call it a highway robbery. You want to say, that's a bridge too far. Fine, you're welcome to your opinion. But when a person who like half watches boxing and a person who used to be a boxing both come to the same conclusion and they still give it to the other guy, I don't know I don't know why you wouldn't call that a highway robbery, except that I don't know. I don't understand your logic. I don't.
Okay, very briefly, here's my logic. Canelo fought a great fight. I mean, again, setting aside the judging, he fought a great fight. Again, I thought he lost. Still a great fight.
Fought an okay fight.
He fought a great fight. Come on.
No.
Again, you can fight it. You can have a great fight. You can fight a great fight and still lose. That's.
I agree. He didn't though.
I thought he did.
There were. I don't. Did you listen to our commentary? Were you one of the?
No, not yet.
Were you one of the 20 people? Because there were times where I felt like he was just taking rounds off. Where his heart wasn't in the fight anymore, and he was, to coin a phrase, coasting to victory.
There were they both took rounds off. I mean, I'm not disputing that, but there were enough rounds where you could see an argument for him to win. This wasn't a case of he clearly didn't win the round. I'm going to give it to him anyway.
One of the arguments that Pat and I made was that it felt like the only way that you could give some of those rounds to Canelo was if you're totally discounting the jab as an effective punch.
Yes. I agree with that being the primary point of argument, and I also know that there are boxing judges who score that way.
Well, that's a robbery. That's like not counting leg kicks in MMA.
Then how many years did we suffer through that being a legitimate?
And they were robberies. Jesus Christ. Speaking of robberies, we also did a TV party for Insatiable Season 1.
Well, hang on. The last thing about the scoring for that fight.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know this about boxing judges sitting ringside. Apparently, they don't have monitors.
Okay.
They literally have to watch from ringside, and that is just a horrible, horrible way to score those fights.
Yeah, well,
you at least need to see the camera.
When I was an amateur MMA judge, I didn't get a monitor. I'm lucky I got a pencil.
Okay, that's amateur. That's amateur scoring for amateur fights. That's not the biggest boxing event of the year.
Okay, fair enough. And if you're a communist and a homosexual, you'll love our take on source material, Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles. It was a hit for communists and homosexuals nationwide.
I don't think you're qualified to speak for either the Communist Party or the homosexual group, seeing as you belong to neither category.
I don't know. Ronnie Adams would disagree with you. We had a raucous debate over whether or not Bert and Ernie are gay today, in which case I was called a communist and a homosexual several times, with an agenda that I was pushing on Ronnie.
I don't. That seems. I mean, look. Who cares if Bert and Ernie can't be gay or straight? They're puppets.
They can be. They absolutely can be. They are characters.
Puppets.
Characters.
They have nothing below the waist.
It doesn't matter. Again, your ability to have sex does not mean you can't love somebody of the same sex.
All puppets are asexual.
You're asexual.
No. I thought I was for a while, but no.
Ew. Stop.
You brought it up.
And I'm sorry I did. So for my wedding anniversary, I'm taking my wife to Jimmy Hart's famous bar in Tiki Deck because Conrad Thompson won't stop talking about it on his other podcasts.
This seems like a bad idea.
We'll see. I'll have a review for people. We'll have a special podcast review once my wife and I get back from our wedding anniversary. So she's up for it, man. She's excited.
Again, it just seems like a bad idea to do anything involving Jimmy Hart.
It's the same weekend as Venom, so we'll have a lot to talk about when we do our Venom review. Maybe instead of reviewing Venom, we'll talk about my trip to Daytona. I
am more than happy to let you blabber. No. This is only acceptable if I know beforehand we're going to do that for 90 minutes. So I can avoid seeing the movie.
No, you have to still see the movie.
I am not. No. If I'm going to see the movie, you are vetoed from discussing your anniversary.
Fair enough. All right, take me home, Jeeves.
All right, on that needlessly pedantic and wandering note, thank you everyone for suffering through this with us. We appreciate your patronage. Don't know why you choose to patronize us, but you do. Again, Mark just went over the schedule that will be upcoming, so you can look forward to all of those shows. Should be a lot of fun this Sunday.
Oh, who won? Mark Hunt or the other heavyweight?
Olenek submitted him in the first.
Ugh.
Really nice rear naked choke.
Cool.
Mark Hunt hit Olenek flush in the face with the right hand, and Olenek just gave him a thumbs up. It was a great moment.
Awesome.
I mean, the other heavyweight fight was just ass. Just so much.
I wasn't asking about that one.
But if you want my full review...
Who's John Jones fighting at UFC 230?
He's not.
Oh. I thought the headline was that he was.
No, we haven't even received a specific... No, we don't even know when his suspension's up. There's no official ruling about him in USADA yet.
Oh, what was the headline about the other day about him at UFC 230?
There's nothing about him in UFC 230.
I saw something, but it's not. I don't want to ruin what's left of this recording by trying to look it up on my slow ass computer.
No, UFC 230 doesn't have a main event yet. They're going to announce it at some point this week, probably at the press conference for Nurmagomedov and McGregor.
It'll probably end up being Brock Lesnar versus John Jones.
Brock is not eligible to compete in the UFC yet.
Nah, I don't think that'll stop him.
I mean, look, if Brock's coming back to fight, he's going to fight DC. He's not going to fight John Jones.
Okay, end the show.
But no, yeah, UFC 230 does not have a main event just yet. There's probably rumors about it being John, but again, there's not actually a ruling on his drug suspension. Speaking of drug suspensions, Brock Lesnar is not eligible to fight until January of 2019. But if you want more MMA news, the 411 Ground and Pound radio show on Sundays is a great one. It's the other show I host here. We talk about cards, fights that went down, news that happened, all that good stuff. Sadly, on the MMA front, Norifumi Kid Yamamoto passed away either yesterday or the day before. Really sad. For those of you who might remember him from his run in Japan. Only 41, man. Cancer sucks.
Yeah, it does.
But this coming Sunday, we'll have a review of UFC Fight Night 137, which is a shambles of a card. It had its main event fall through again for like the third or fourth time. It's now Thiago Santos versus Eric Anders at light heavyweight. It's not a good card, but you can hear I'm blanking on names. Jeff and I talk about the few fights that are kind of worth looking at. And again, you can listen to that, so that'll be a lot of fun this coming Sunday. Apart from that, again, I'll be back for the Iron Fist show, this will be an interesting contrast because Mark and I both kind of enjoyed Iron Fist Season 1, while everyone else just hated it. There's been a lot more positive buzz about the second season, but again, I'm a bit into it, and I'm really struggling with it. So, once again, I will be the opposite of general perspectives. So we'll talk about that. I might be wrong. I might flip-flop by the time it wraps up, and I'll think it's great. So until then, thank you again for listening. For Mark, I'm Robert. Stay safe, and please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.